Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to Blues Game Day Live here at Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. And, well, why wouldn't I be with the most famous radio analyst in all of hockey, Joe Vitale? And, Joe, morning skate, the Rangers are out there right now, but really it's all about the Blues. The Rangers are not a playoff team right now. They're building for the future, and the future likely will be bright for them. But for the St. Louis Blues, what a story this has been. Since the New York Rangers came into St. Louis and won the game, the Blues were still trying to find their way. Now, 1 point. That's it, to secure, to clinch a playoff spot, and that's all that's needed. And I'm sure that's at the top of the brains there for every one of these players as they get down and stretch and get ready for their morning skate, Joe.
Absolutely. You know, you looked at where they came from, where they are now, and they could have clinched earlier this week with a little help from our friends, but it didn't work out that way. And actually, I prefer it this way. You know, this game's going to have some urgency tonight. They're going to play with some pace. It's going to be a great environment here, as you mentioned, Madison Square Garden. So many wonderful history moments here, and the Blues to do it in New York tonight could be a pretty special thing.
And just a reminder as well, for some inventory here, we've got the game tonight. It's a 6 o'clock puck drop in St. Louis, 5:30 on the pregame show. On the radio side, it's on Y98 FM. On the TV side, it's on Fox Sports Midwest. Plus, you can go to stlouisblues.com and get all of your dial-in information. Find out where it is on your TV set or on your radio as well. So that's one thing. We'll move along with that. Baseball season starting, and I know on our side we got Bernie Federko and Scott Warman from Fox Sports Midwest. They're here at Madison Square Garden. Have you ever? You were never a healthy scratch here while being a player, so you never sat or looked around this beautiful building. What do you think?
Oh my God! I mean, I'm starting to really kind of see a little bit more and more now. And again, it's just some buildings just have that.
Yeah.
It's just that. It reeks off the walls. Like you smell the sweat of Rocky Marciano back in the 50s when he would box here, or just all the Knicks players and the great traditions and concerts. I mean, you look at the banners and the pictures, and players feel that. It's a special building, and I know the Rangers take pride in being here, and I think any team that comes into this building takes pride. Always a fun atmosphere in New York.
Yeah, no question about that. We've got some other things too. Speaking of heavyweight battles, and you're talking about Rocky Marciano and all the great fights that were here, and the Stanley Cup of 1994, where it had been a long time, 54 years since the Rangers won, and they won right here in Game 7 against Vancouver. But let's go to maybe some potential awards. I mean, we've been talking all along about certain players. Congratulations to Jay Bouwmeester. He's a nominee for the Bill Masterton Award for perseverance and dedication to the game of hockey, and that's deservedly so. And he's playing some great hockey as well. He and Colton Parayko are maybe the top defending tandem, maybe in the entire NHL the last couple of months. But you got Ryan O'Reilly. Where do you put Ryan O'Reilly? Is he a Selke Award nominee, or is he the leader in that department?
You know, I think he's got to be either the leader or near the top. You know Patrice Bergeron, who's won this award many times, and you look at what Boston's doing. You look how well they're playing. He's always going to be considered up there. You know, people are throwing Sidney Crosby's name around. He's starting to get a little bit more recognition for his defensive game, and he's obviously got the name for the league, where I think he could be near the top as well. But for me, and I don't think I'm just speaking biasly because of what we do and how we represent this team, but Ryan O'Reilly has been that player. And I always say it, this team's doing well now, and he continues to do well. But there was a stretch there when this season started, when this team was not very good. And he really put this team on his back, and they were scratching and clawing to get points, and they kept them in a good position to where they are now. So for that, as a player and what they mean to their team, Ryan O'Reilly, I can't think of a player out there who is more deserving of the Selke.
Yeah, and I think we all know that there's some other terrific defensive players. I mean, Anze Kopitar is one of them, but they're not in the playoffs right now. You've got, I think, Barkov in Florida is a really good defending player. They're not in the playoffs right now, and there are some players that deserve that recognition. But I think Ryan's 5-on-5 play, going up against the other team's best players, his face-off percentage, chances for and against while he's on the ice 5-on-5. It's been pretty dominating. So he's a plus player. He's got almost 30 goals, and boy, early on he was single-handedly carrying this team to a really good spot. Let's go towards the Calder Trophy. I mean, we know that Elias Pettersson in Vancouver's got the edge. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But boy, Jordan Binnington's put his name on the map here as well.
He has. And a lot of people were talking about Vezina, and as we were just mentioning, not quite maybe the games that you need for that, but you can make the argument there. But certainly in the talks for the Calder, and Pettersson, the numbers, the games played, he's been a big part of Vancouver since the get-go of the season. That's why I think he's got the edge. And again, to me, I always look at it too, and look at like what a player has meant to that team. And as for a rookie in this league, what Jordan Binnington has come in here and done and really just kind of turned this ship. And I think, he's pushed Jake Allen in a way too, where I think, to me, if you're pushing your teammates in a healthy direction, I think that's a big part of it. I think Jake's game's been really elevated since Jordan's come in as well. They're getting great goaltending from both, but I think it really started with Jordan Binnington. His style, as we've talked about so many times, is just so impressive, and it's really just taken a lot of these shooters in the National Hockey League off guard. They've never really seen a kid like this, and I think for that reason, you have to put him up there in the Calder conversation.
Yep, the numbers back it up. The turn of events, especially that game in Philadelphia where he gets the shutout and then he starts passing. Great player, great goalie after great goalie on his way to a remarkable first season in the National Hockey League, and he doesn't seem to be tapering off. In fact, I think his game's picking up right here. And I think the details of the game are really important for a young player. We've seen that with Vince Dunn along the way, and we've seen that with Robert Thomas this year, and now we're seeing it with Dave Alexander, the goalie coach, who's done a nice job the last couple of years, but making sure he's on top of him too, to make sure that he's honing his skills and making sure all the details are real good. So that's a good one. But does it not start with the Jack Adams Award nominee here in Craig Berube?
Absolutely.
The voting's going to be out there. The broadcasters are actually they vote for the Jack Adams Award as the top coach in the NHL. There are so many great nominees here, and let's pay respect to some of the guys that have had a great season. Rod Brindamore, Bill Peters, John Cooper's the leader right there, and Barry Trotz on the island.
Geez,
these guys have had
that's gonna be a tough one.
Incredible seasons, but I mean, there's no team almost in the history of the game that's gone from not in the playoffs to almost leading the division. I mean, if you look at the standings right now, Winnipeg struggled last night. They've got 94 points. Nashville's got 92. St. Louis has got 90. They could win the Central Division.
Yeah.
And so that's why you've got to put Craig Berube up there as well. And he believed in these players, and I think his passion and his conviction and the ability to give them confidence turned this team around.
I do, and I think you used two great words there, Darren, passion and conviction. And, as we've seen, you're a hockey coach, but you got to figure out how to motivate human beings.
Yep.
These guys are fathers, they're husbands, they're sons. I mean, there's a lot that goes into these personalities. Everyone's a little different. And for a coach to understand individually, how do I motivate this player in this certain area? Or how do I motivate this defenseman in that area? I mean, it's a tricky thing. And I think you look at his resume, look how long he's been in the league. He's been coached by some great coaches. He's constantly been surrounded by really good people. And I think he's evolved into become not just a great coach, but just a great people person. I think he's just motivated this group. He's taken them from the very bottom, as you mentioned, and brought them into a wonderful position here tonight in New York to really just kind of put their stamp on getting into the playoffs. And again, Craig Berube, he's a great man off the ice.
Yes,
I
sure
love his integrity. I love how simple he is. The players really respect how straightforward and honest he is. And again, another coach person on this team that you have to throw up there in the conversation for sure.
15 years as either a head coach or an assistant coach since he retired as an NHL player, one of the toughest that's ever played, but an honorable tough guy in Craig Berube, playing over 1,000 games. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention his two assistants, or actually more than that. Sean Farrell's the video coach, but the evolving development of Steve Ott running the forwards, the relationship that he has. I noticed between the benches, Joe, from the beginning of the year till now, the comfort level.
Yeah.
They have an IFB in their ear. They're listening to somebody up top. They're trying to find their way. You know, can I bark at this player? Can I be aggressive? Can I yell at a referee?
Right.
All those little things. And then there's Mike Van Ryn. I don't think there's a group of 6 defensemen, 7 defensemen, 8 defensemen, probably 9 during the course of the year that have developed as nicely. And have taken on, I think, the personality of a very positive guy in Mike Van Ryn. So the coaches have done a great job.
They sure have. Mike's done a terrific job on the back end. Just, using the guys in the right situations of the game and knowing when to use guys and not use guys. And again, the players respect him for a lot of these guys have played with him or against him, and they have that mutual respect there, and Ott as well. And it's funny when you play against a guy like Otter, you can never imagine him being as knowledgeable as the game. And I don't mean any disrespect by that.
Doesn't he?
I sit down with him and I talk hockey with him, and this guy, he's brilliant. He really understands the game very well, and you see him a little bit closer, and you see how both these assistant coaches have helped this group. And truthfully, you look down at the bench. I remember about 3-4 months ago when Mike Berube took over, I'm looking down there, I'm like, man, we don't have a lot of experience on these assistant coaches side. You compare those to the bench.
You're right about that.
But man, they figured it out.
and then they've got great camaraderie. They have fun together. They battle it out together. They talk hockey together, and that's what you want from your group of guys. You want them together as well. One last shout out here before we wrap up Blues Game Day Live, and that would be the fourth line for the Blues, if you want to call it a fourth line. I'm not sure if there is a fourth line. I'll call it the Barbashev line. And because we're in Madison Square Garden, we're in New York City, we're close to Broadway. John Hamm said it best. I mean, Ivan Barbashev's name in Russia is Ivan. That's a fact. It is Ivan Barbashev. He liked that.
Yeah.
And since that time in Los Angeles, when John Hamm called that goal, Ivan Barbashev has been a man amongst men. And you've got to give credit to Zach Sanford, but I think it all starts with the head coach putting Alexander Steen on that line. This is a well-balanced hockey club. So we'll finish with that and your thoughts on what that line has done, because I know you've been a prominent member of third and fourth line and energy guys, so you must really appreciate what they're doing.
I think it's terrific, and I think that I talked to Barbie about this about a week ago, and I said, what's it been like having Steen on your line? He said, truthfully, you got to be more honest. And nothing against Mackenzie McEachran, but when you have a player like Alexander Steen join your line, a veteran of that presence.
You can't fib to him?
Ooh, no. You don't want to turn that puck over. You're darn sure that pass is going to get connected, because you don't want to have that guy. You don't want to let him down. He's a leader on this team, and when you have his presence there and his skill level, his mindset, they're always talking on the bench. I think he's bringing a lot of knowledge to that line. And Barbie and Stan, you're doing what they do. They're moving their feet. They're creating plays. A terrific line, energetic line. The one that went off Sanford's neck the other day, that was just comical. I mean, it shows you get to that net, good things are going to happen, and this fourth line has been doing that.
Joe, great stuff today, and looking forward to the call tonight and your first call right here at the world's most famous arena up there with Chris Kerber on Y98, and we are on Fox Sports Midwest Plus, so check your local listings on stlouisblues.com. So enjoy your day. It's the New York Rangers, and it's the St. Louis Blues. 1 point, that's all it takes for the Blues to ensure that they are in the playoffs. But I know they're looking higher than that, and they're looking to maybe take over the Central Division. So we'll wrap that up with that thought, and for Joe Vitale, I'm Darren Pang. Enjoy your day, everybody.